Every night, Thor killed the two creatures that trusted him most. He skinned them, boiled them, ate them. By sunrise, they stood beside him again, alive, waiting for him to do it again. Thor's goats, Tanngrisnir and Tanngnjóstr. But there's one rule. If a single bone breaks during the feast, the resurrection fails. Marvel never shows you this. So tonight, what happens the one night it does? Teeth bearer, teeth grinder. That's what their names mean. Not just a chariot team, a ritual. Every stop on Thor's journey, the same cycle. Throat cut, hide peeled back, flesh boiled over the fire, shared among Thor and whoever he's traveling with that night. No hesitation, no ceremony. Routine, the way breathing is routine. Then before dawn, he undoes it. Hides laid flat, bones gathered, pressed back inside piece by piece. Mjölnir rises, one strike. Bone finds bone. Breath rushes back into lungs that shouldn't have any left. The goats stand, whole, as if the night before never happened. Death at dusk, life at dawn. A cycle built on one condition. And Thor built the failure point in on purpose. One command, absolute. Eat everything. But do not, under any circumstance, break a bone. Because Mjölnir doesn't create life. It restores it. And you cannot restore what no longer exists to restore. Break the bone, and there's nothing left for the hammer to rebuild around. Which means every meal at Thor's table is a live ritual, handled by ordinary, hungry, half-drunk mortal hands in the dark. One person's carelessness away from permanent failure. For a god defined by unstoppable strength, that's a strange kind of power. Absolute. And entirely dependent on someone else following the rules. One night, it wasn't. Because this isn't a story about two goats who simply die and rise on command. This is the story of the one night the ritual broke. And the price wasn't paid by the goat. It was paid by a boy. Thor takes shelter with a poor farming family. Little food, little warmth. So he does what he always does. He kills his own goats again. For one night the family eats like kings. Thor gives the command. Eat the meat, leave the bones untouched. Then he stops watching. Or so the farmer's son believes. His name is Thjalfi. In front of him sits a single bone, packed with marrow, the richest part of the meal. He picks up a stone. One strike. A crack, small and forgettable, swallowed by the noise of the feast. The marrow disappears. The broken bone gets tossed onto the pile with the rest, hidden by nothing more than hope. Morning comes. Thor performs the ritual exactly as he always has. Skins on the ground, bones arranged. Mjölnir rises. One goat leaps up, strong, whole. The second staggers. Its back leg twists beneath its own weight. It cannot stand right. It never will again. Thor stares at the animal, then at the family. Nobody speaks. Nobody breathes. He doesn't need a confession. The crippled goat is already pointing at the guilty. The god who moments ago restored life now holds a hammer that could just as easily end it. The family expects death. What they get instead is worse. Thor takes payment, not in silver, not in livestock, in people. Thjalfi and his sister Röskva leave with him that morning, not as guests, as permanent servants, bound to a debt that can never actually be repaid, because what was broken can't be given back in kind. The goat stays lame forever, a single flaw stitched into an otherwise endless cycle. Proof, walking on four legs, that even a god's resurrection has a ceiling. The version of Thor most people carry around, armor, cape, easy charm, has almost nothing to do with this. That Thor protects. He doesn't kill his own transportation nightly and stitch it back together from bone and hide before sunrise. The older material is colder, a god whose power isn't clean. whose generosity, offered freely at the table, turns out to have a price written somewhere nobody thought to read. There's something else buried in it too. The old Norse relationship with survival itself. A world where marrow was treasure, where one broken rule could cost a family its own children. Strip away the lightning and the chariot, and what's left is a god who cannot move through the 9 realms without leaving a trail of death behind him, and whose absolute power depends entirely on the discipline of the mortals sitting at his table. The cycle of the goats wasn't proof Thor had beaten death. It was proof death could only be postponed. A truth that, in the old stories, eventually caught up with Thor himself, when the day came that no ritual and no strike of Mjölnir could bring him back. Every myth like this survives for a reason, not because it's comfortable, because it's true to something older than comfort. The idea that nothing worth having comes free, not even for gods. Thor's goats paid with their bodies every single night. Thjalfi paid with his freedom for one careless bite, and Thor himself paid too in the end, though that's a story for another night. So before you go, sit with this. If a single broken bone can end a resurrection, what does that say about how fragile the rules holding your own world together might actually be? Was Thjalfi's punishment justice, or was it a god refusing to admit his power had limits? Tell me which one you believe. Comment it below. I read every single one, and I reply to as many as I can. If this is the kind of mythology nobody else on this platform is telling you, subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from.